NACDL is the association of the nation's criminal defense bar.
The following webinar is an NACDL production brought to you by our sponsor.
Introducing MyCase, an intuitive, web-based practice management software that's packed with all the tools your law firm will love. Collaborative calendaring means your staff will never miss an important date or deadline. Document management that makes it easy to organize files and, with the click of a button, even generate files from saved document templates. You can create and delegate tasks, add notes to case and client files, and even receive real-time updates and notifications as your staff gets things done. MyCase has robust time and billing features that handle all of your trust accounting, time and expense tracking, invoice creation, and reporting. You can even accept online payments from your clients. And best of all, your clients can access a secure web portal. You can share information with them like important calendar dates, documents, and invoices. They can even communicate with your firm by commenting on those items or sending direct messages. It's a new legal world out there, and it's time to start managing it. So what are you waiting for? Modernize your practice with MyCase.
Hi, my name is Matt Spiegel, and this is CLE, the Forecast Calls for Clouds. Today I'm going to be talking about what the cloud is. It's a term that pretty much everyone has heard about. It's pretty common nowadays, and I'm going to kind of give you a little background on what exactly the cloud is. For those of you that still don't really know, and even if you think you know, sometimes your definition could be a little complicated, and I'm going to simplify things for you. And then I'm also going to spend a lot of time talking about how to ethically embrace the cloud and how it is actually very easy to use it ethically, and just give you a few things to look out for and things that you can do to really protect yourself to make sure that you are using it ethically. Give you a little bit about myself. I am a lawyer. I am actually a former practicing criminal defense lawyer. I worked at a big law firm for about 4 years doing nothing but criminal defense, and then I started my own practice back in 2009. And when I started my own practice, that's when I had the idea for MyCase. I started that company around the same time that I was starting my own law firm, and I still own a law firm in San Diego, the Spiegel Law Group. I don't actually practice anymore. I spend my days having fun at the MyCase office, as you can see in this picture. So I am an attorney and an entrepreneur, no longer actually practicing law in the courtroom, but I still maintain my bar card. So what is the cloud? This is a question that you may think you know the answer to, as I mentioned before, and it's something that is just all over the place right now. We see it everywhere, and it's a pretty basic idea. And the definition is pretty easy, but people have complicated it. There are a lot of people out there that aren't necessarily super into the cloud, and they have contributed to the complication behind the definition and what exactly it is. And I'm going to actually dispel that for you and really give you a good sense, very, very easily, and using some real-world examples, what the cloud actually is. And to put it in very, very simple visual terms, the cloud is this, the image on the left, not this, the image on the right of a CD. So the image on the left here is, a picture of just downloading it's the world. It's the World Wide Web. It's the connection that we all have through the internet. And it's basically just getting information right from there. It's not a CD that gets sent to your house and then you have to install it on your computer. At its most simplest terms, that's what the cloud is. It's getting your programs, your software off the internet instead of getting your software from your local computer, meaning installed on your computer. This may help to kind of simplify what the cloud is as well. So in the past, and many of you are still probably, unfortunately, very familiar with this setup, especially if any of you guys still use Time Matters and you are trying to get into Time Matters at home or through some sort of remote login. This is a very common setup. this is showing you all the different remote logins and servers and VPNs, virtual centers and clients, database communications, all this stuff that's necessary in order to uh, to do complex VPN and networking, which is what it used to be, right? I mean, this used to be most of our systems. At the big law firm I used to work at, this was what we had, and we had IT people in house that were their jobs were to manage all this stuff, just so we can simply log in to our system from outside of the office. Massively complicated. And keep this image in your head. It's complexity, because as I go to the next scene, as I go to my next slide, you're really going to understand the difference between the old complex way of doing things, which is this slide, and the cloud. This is about as complicated a slide as I could possibly make for imaging what the cloud actually is. It's very simple and very straightforward. All your devices are just all pulling information down from the same cloud, from the same server, if you will. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's integrated. And it doesn't require any of the crazy setups that we saw in the previous slide. It's just very streamlined. The thing about the cloud is that almost all of you are already using the cloud. And that's what's interesting, is people think about the cloud and they automatically think about using this crazy software or practice management software and security issues and oh, I got to do my homework. I can't ever put any of my data in the cloud, when really you probably already are. So a great example of that is Microsoft Word. That's the old way of doing something, right? That's the traditional software play. And its counterpart in the cloud is Google Docs, right? That is using the cloud. We used to use a hard drive, is that next image. And many of you probably don't even know what that is, but that's a hard drive there, that second image down. And now instead of the hard drive, we're using Dropbox or Flickr, right, to store all of our documents or to store our files, to store our images. We're taking things off of our local hard drive and we're putting them in the cloud. This is extremely common now. And then that thing, that item in the bottom left there, that's a DVD player. I don't know if you guys remember those. And now, again, we're using the cloud for that, and a lot of us don't even realize it. We're using iTunes, we're using Netflix, various Hulu, a million and two other providers that are all taking our entertainment, our viewing experience into the cloud. So most of you are already using it. You may not have even realized it. And there are so many other services that you're using now that you probably don't even realize is the cloud. Perhaps the most important of which is email, right? So email is using the cloud. You may not think of it that way, but it is, right? Nothing is going on your local machine with email. So the thing about the cloud, right, is the cloud is just this idea of a server, right? It's just a server that's not on your premises, that's hosted by someone else. So you can just get into that data whenever you want from wherever you are. It's not the cloud itself that has really revolutionized things. It's more what the cloud has enabled us to do, and what the cloud what genres, what industries the cloud has spawned. And really, when I say the cloud, I mean really it's just the accessibility to these servers. The cloud has always been around. As long as the internet has been around, the cloud has been around. It's just now the infrastructure is accessible to companies like us or Dropbox or Netflix. It's easy for us to get time, to get space on servers affordably, easily, quickly. That has opened the door for really utilizing the cloud. And so what that has done is it's spurned an industry called SaaS. And SaaS is really what has leveraged the cloud and revolutionized the way that we look at software. SaaS is software as a service. And so what that is, I'm going to kind of give you a little breakdown about what SaaS is. You may have heard it, you may not have. SaaS is a simple way of delivering software. And all it is a simple change in delivery method, right? Instead of delivering the software via a CD that you have to install into your local computer. We're just delivering the software through a website. It's just a simple change in delivery method. Some of the most amazing inventions or creations of our time, innovations of our time, have been just simple changes in delivery method. This is one of them. So there's no CD. The software itself that you typically install in your computer, that just lives on servers. Typically, there's a difference in the way that you purchase a SaaS product. It's typically a monthly subscription versus a large purchase, right? If you've ever had to buy Time Matters, you know you're shelling out tons of money for that software. It's painful, and you're doing it probably yearly. And with SaaS, it's just a monthly subscription. It's like subscribing to a magazine. SaaS is really leveraging the cloud to change an entire industry. And it's not just legal, it's really everything out there. There's accounting products that are SaaS. There's help desk software that's SaaS. I mean, really any software that you're used to using, you can almost now get it as a software as a service, through the web. And if you're still not convinced that this is not the trend, if you still think that, you know what, I got my CD drive, I'm going to be good with this. This is not going to ever go away. I just ask you to look at your laptop. Many of you have. I've got the new MacBook Pro laptop here. We're an Apple shop over here, so we use all Mac products. But many of the PC products as well, the laptops that you have, they don't even have a CD drive built in. And if that's not proof that this is the trend, that computer companies are not even including CD drives in their computers anymore, then I'm not exactly sure what would convince you. So this is the trend. It's not going to go away. The cloud is here to stay, and everything is going to continue to go that direction. So the cloud's here. We understand that. We've accepted that. Like it or not, it's here. So why should we use it? There are a million reasons why we should use it. And here are some that we'll go through. So there are problems with traditional methods of software, right? Which are going to, require us or push us into the cloud. One of them is a mismatch of feature and needs. It's just they don't have what we need them to have, right? And they move very slow. So when you do need a new feature, it's not something that can be pumped out very quickly. They can't be as receptive to customer feedback as an agile cloud-based software, because in order to make an update, they have to send out a brand new CD. Reliability issues. Frequently, if anybody who has software that gets installed on a Windows computer understands reliability issues, crashing, and it's your responsibility. There's no one there on the other end who could troubleshoot your software. It's just a disk that gets installed. So any issues that you're having you're going to be having on your local machine. Insufficient support. Traditional methods typically have very inefficient support channels. The SaaS companies typically are just more tech inclined. They're younger generation startups, and customer service is extraordinarily important to those companies. And so you're going to get better support. And perhaps the most important is they're not very mobile. Traditional methods of software just flat out are not mobile. If you do want to make them mobile, it's typically one of those very complex setups that we discussed earlier. But in general, it's just not a very mobile service. So what are the benefits of cloud computing? We're going to go into each a little bit in a little bit more detail. Mobility, security, business continuity, cost, and better software. This is an outline of, we're going to go, like I said, we're going to go into each one of these in a little bit more depth. But this is why the 5 reasons why the cloud is so much better than traditional software. Mobility, security, business continuity, which is we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that is, what happens in the event of the disaster, making sure your business can continue through any adversity and cost, and it's just better software. So let's talk a little bit about mobility. So with the cloud, your data can be accessed from anywhere. All you need is an internet connection. That's it. You could be in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You could be in the middle of New York City. It doesn't matter. As long as you have an internet connection, you're going to be able to access your data. It's the device or operating system that you have is completely irrelevant. So you might be a Windows guy, you might be a Mac guy. It doesn't matter. As long as you have a browser, an internet browser on your machine that you can point to a website, you will be able to access your software. I can't stress that enough. You don't know how many people call us asking us, hey, can I use your software on a Mac or can I use your software on a Windows? It just doesn't matter. If you have an internet browser and an internet connection, you're good to go. Mobile applications from many vendors, this is just the nature of the game as well. Being in the cloud, it's very easy to build mobile apps that can pull that data. It makes us a lot more agile. So most of the SaaS companies that you're gonna use that are in the cloud are gonna have mobile apps available for download. It's a really great tool. And there's no complicated VPN or networking setup, as we discussed before. Don't need to rehash that. I think you understand that. It's a huge benefit. Security. This is one of the biggest ones, and we're going to spend a lot more time talking specifically about security and some of the questions that you should be asking your cloud vendor in order to ensure that you're following best practices and being ethical. But the cloud is far more secure than anything you could manage locally. And I really mean that. The physical location of the servers is far more secure. And let me explain that to you. So many of you might have a server at your office and you keep your data on your server. And let me tell you, that server is probably in your office. And maybe it's in like a closet somewhere. So in order to get in there, you got to go up an elevator, you got to go through your front door into your office, and then you need to go into another door, and then you can access those physical servers. And that's okay. You probably lock those doors. But let me just give you some insight into our servers, for example. Our servers are all with Amazon Web Services. So Amazon is our data host. And our servers are in a data center, which is for the walls and ceiling, I believe, are 4 feet of steel. It may not be quite 4 feet of steel. It's either 2 feet of steel, 2 feet of concrete. But it's a massive structure of steel. And there's one entrance into that data center, and it's got 2 armed guards at the entrance, and it has a retina scan to get in. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is a level of security that you're not going to be able to duplicate at your law firm. If you can duplicate that level of security, then I would love to talk to you, because we probably have a job opening for you. And this is just a great example. It's just, you think that your data is more safe there, but the realities of what compromises your data, it's so much more often someone just breaking in and stealing something than it is them hacking into the system. And even with hacking, our system is going to be far more secure. What you have, maybe you have an IT guy, maybe you have someone who's built a firewall and done some precautions to protect your server. But the reality is that we are backed. We have a $1 billion company behind us protecting our servers, and we have teams of engineers working for us who are experts in database security, far more than 99.9% of the law firms are going to be able to have working in their IT department. So it's just the nature of resources and capability. The data redundancy is a very big one. It's the backup. So the cloud is going to be able to back up your data so frequently. There are going to be measures and precautions in place to virtually back your data up virtually minute by minute or second by second. So even in the event of something catastrophic, you still have all your data and you would not lose it. We are experts in database security and server management. Most cloud companies are going to be able to boast that. And this is a big deal. It's more than you're going to be able to have locally. Business continuity. So again, this is the idea that like what happens in the event of an emergency or a catastrophic event, or weather or a natural disaster. We want to make sure that your business doesn't stop during that type of event. So there are several ways that the cloud can leverage its infrastructure to ensure that business continuity needs are always met for you. Multiple servers in multiple regions. So this means that your servers that you will be accessing could be in 3 different regions across the country, maybe Virginia, maybe California, maybe Texas. So if something was to happen, this is protection from national disasters, the second bullet point. If something were to happen on the East Coast and it got completely wiped out, you would still be fine accessing your practice management, as long as you didn't live on the East Coast too. You would still be fine accessing your practice management software, because you would just hit a server in a different region. So it's really incredible that way. And data redundancy, your data is extremely safe. It's just continuously getting backed up, and it's also getting backed up upon, split between multiple regions. So everything is so safe. And I can ask you this question: how often does your local server act up? My guess, and it's not even a guess, it's almost a fact, is that your local server acts up all the time, and you're constantly having problems with it, and you're constantly needing to bring in experts, whether it's a hired IT guy or just a contractor, to come in and fix your problems. This is common, and obviously with the cloud, you don't have any of those issues to worry about. So the cloud also just provides better software. And what I mean better software is, that can be a bit of an arbitrary assumption, but I'm looking at it from other ways, right? You're going to get quicker software updates, right? With traditional software and installing a CD on your computer, you've got to wait for that CD to get delivered. So that CD is going to come from a company that's going to make an update maybe once a year. It's a lot more difficult for them to make an update and then get it produced, put out a CD, get it sent out, get it in stores, package it, whatever they have to do. That's a big production, and the typical life cycle for those companies of a version is like a year. Whereas with the cloud, from our perspective, we've actually had times where we've done updates every day for a couple week period. There's no limit to when we can make updates or how we can make updates. You could be working on something and literally just hit refresh on your browser, and before your browser loads with the page, you've got it. Like next time your browser loads with the page, you actually have a brand new feature. It's as simple as that. We can just push updates very easily. You're going to get better customer support. The cloud just has lower overhead, more resources to spend on customer support. And typically, like I said, these SaaS companies, these software as a service companies, just put a much higher premium on customer support. We feel the same way, and a lot of other companies do as well. And the features are developed to meet users' needs. This is just a methodology that many startups go by, and it's just listening to the customer. It's the ability to make these updates really fast, allows us to get a product out there quickly, listen to our customers, and then make the product better as we go. Sort of a rolling process there. And that just really means for the consumer, they get better software. The final reason that we're going to talk about is just the cost. There is a significant reduction in infrastructure costs alone by using the cloud. Just think about how expensive those servers are. To buy a server can sometimes be $5,000 or $6,000, and it can be just that much, if not more, over the course of a year to maintain that server. It's a massive cost savings. You've got a severe reduction in IT staff. If you start using the cloud, you basically don't need any IT staff. So if you're using an IT person, you can use the cloud, you can get rid of them. I know it sounds cutthroat, cold-blooded, but that's just the way that it is. IT staff typically are kept around or only are employed when there's something very unnecessarily complicated going on. And now it's just very easy to uncomplicate things, and there's really no reason to have an IT person on staff at a law firm, especially any small or mid-sized law firm. The cloud also provides incredibly cheap storage. Dropbox is a great example of that. you can get just gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of storage space for next to nothing. And at the end of the day, all this just equals more billable time. So having, being freed up, having more time to spend on your work just means that you can actually bill more time. So we're going to switch gears and talk about ethics. I hope we have a pretty good background now of what the cloud is, and how you use it every day and what the benefits are of it. So now we're going to switch to talking about ethics. This is a really, really hot topic in our space right now in the legal industry. The cloud is running rampant, and state bar associations are supporting it and making sure that they keep themselves seemingly relevant by explaining to you what you need to look out for and making sure that you're careful. But the reality of it is, you can be very careful, and it's not that difficult. And what I want to start off by saying is, along those lines, is don't listen to the fear mongers. Fear is easily spread amongst the ignorant. I really love that quote. It is nice, and it isn't a good idea to just get informed and do your homework. We see all this. You turn on the news and you hear something about the NSA. It seems to happen all the time now. And that's just my example of things that are out there to scare you. IT people who are out there to keep their jobs. No offense if there are any IT people looking, but just typically, IT people out there will, scare people into thinking that they can't use the cloud, because if they start using the cloud, then the IT people are not going to have jobs. And so these are the fear mongers. These are people who are spreading ideas about using the cloud, that either one don't know what they're talking about, or two have an agenda for doing so, an ulterior motive. And I'm here to tell you, very, very much the case as a lawyer and as a startup entrepreneur and as a practice management software provider, it's just not true. It's very, very safe, and it's safer than anything you can have on your own. It's just this simple. The cloud is safe. I want you guys all to understand that, and I want you to know that. And I'm just going to give you some really best practices to make sure that you are protecting yourself, and following best practices when researching a cloud vendor. The way that I like to break down my ethical portion of the talk, and the advice that I like to give you as far as ethics are concerned, I like to break it down into 4 questions for you to ask. And I'm going to give you those 4 questions, and we're going to break them down, and we're going to talk about each question and what they really mean. And then you're going to have enough information to do your own research on the cloud provider, and make sure that you're doing what you need to do to be reasonably sure that your client's data is protected, which is what you have a duty to do. Take reasonable precautions. Use all reasonableness to ensure that your client's data is protected. And if you ask these 4 questions before jumping into any software, I can assure you, you will have done that. Well, I should caveat that by saying, as long as you get the right answers to these questions. If you ask these questions and you get wrong answers, and you still decide to use it, then that could be troublesome. So the 4 questions: where is my data being stored? Who has access to my data? How do I get my data out? And how is the data encrypted? These are the 4 questions that I think you need to ask in order to make sure that you are taking all reasonable steps to protecting your client's data. And as I said, we're going to dive into each one of these in a lot more detail. So where is my data being stored? You want to know where your data is being stored and where the servers are located. Okay, and this is the physical location of the servers. And we touched on this when we talked about security. We talked about you could have servers in different locations, and that's okay. The heart of this question, though, is about ethics, not about security. And it's about your ability to maintain confidentiality for your clients. So when I say the heart of this question is about ethics, and not security. So when I'm talking about this, let me give you an example. If I have a document, let's say I have a police report, um, and I store that document in the cloud. If that is stored on a server that is in India, well, that document is now subject to the jurisdiction of the country in which it's located, which is India. And I don't know about you, but I just don't feel super comfortable about a piece of evidence that I have um, being subject to jurisdiction of India. Whatever they might want to do with that, or whatever they want to try to access. Now, there's obviously encryption, and we're going to talk about encryption in a second, but it's still, it doesn't sit well. It's not a good practice. You want to make sure that um, the servers that your cloud provider is using are in the United States. And almost always they're in the continental United States. Not that that really matters all that much, but you do want to make sure that your data is being stored in the US. Beyond that, you can get granular and actually ask where, what states your data is being stored in. It's not as important a question, and I can assure you that most good cloud providers are not going to be able to give you one answer. It's going to be multiple answers, like I said, because they're going to have servers in multiple locations. That's a good thing for you. But this is the root of the question, and sort of gives you an idea for the answer that you're trying to derive. You want to just make sure that those servers are physically in the United States and not in some other country for jurisdictional issues. It's also a good time to mention, I know as you're listening to this, you're going to have questions. I am always available. My contact information will be at the end, I believe. If not, I will just provide it to you at the end. And it will be very easy for you. You can feel free to email me any questions that you guys might have. I'm always free to answer. So the second question, who has access to my data? So this is an important question, and something that a lot of times people gloss over, or they don't really understand what the answer should be. Typically, the answer to this question is found in the terms of service or the privacy policy. So that's where you're going to get the answer, but you also could just ask your cloud provider. Someone who you talk to just in customer service may not know the answer to this question, but there will definitely be someone at the company that you would be able to talk to that would be able to give you this information. The answer that you're looking for is that it should just be one or two key employees. Okay. Typically, this is a CTO, some type of an engineer, a very high engineer, probably the highest engineer at that company. And now sometimes there may be one other person, another engineer typically, someone who has the responsibility of some checks and balances. It's more common and a little bit more preferable to have at least, to have two people, because you don't want just one person having access to that data, because obviously there are no checks and balances in that situation. So it's usually two people, and you want to just make sure that it is only somewhere around two people. If you start to hear a company that's got 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 people who have access to that data, that could sometimes be a little bit of a red flag. It's just more people to control, more people who have the potential to do something that they shouldn't do. All those people should definitely be governed by some sort of contract with the company to never access that data and to protect that data. But there's definitely people at that company that should have access to all data. Now it's usually encrypted. That data that they have access to is encrypted, and the encryption key is something that it will be stored on a device somewhere. But and they may have access to that, right? So these people will likely have access to encrypted data, but again, they should be under strict contract to not do anything with that. And there are several ways for companies to make sure that even those people don't have access to encrypted data or to decrypted data. And that's something that you want to just double check as well. And that's obviously a very preferable situation. Even if they can get your data, the key employees, it's still encrypted. Another very important thing to note is that nobody on the server side, assuming it's a third party, should have access to the data. Again, using us as an example for this, we use Amazon Web Services. No one at Amazon should have access to our data. There is no reason for anyone there. We're using their servers, but that's it. At the end of the day, those servers are private to us, and we are the only ones that have access to them. Now, if we are hosting our own servers, obviously it's a bit of a different story. But whenever you're being hosted with a third party, you want to make sure that that third party does not have any access to the data at all. How do I get my data out? We always get this question. Lawyers are definitely smart enough to ask this question frequently. But it's typically being used in the sense of, what if I want to go to a different software? It should be being looked at in the sense of, it's my data, I own it. I should be able to get that information very easily. We do not own your data. Providers do not own your data. It's your data. You should be able to get it very easily. One thing to make sure is you need to be able to get your data out in a non-proprietary format. An example of this would be CSV, which stands for comma separated values. That's a document that can be opened up in any spreadsheet program, whether it's Microsoft Excel, whether it's numbers on the Mac. It's completely non-proprietary. What you don't want is to get something, if you guys remember the old days with QuickBooks, you had to get like a QBO file or a Microsoft Money file or something like that. That's crap. You don't want that. If you're getting that, that's worthless to you. You want your data in an easy to open non-proprietary format that allows you to really go wherever you want with it, or to just open it and access it on your computer. And getting your actual data, I think it should be easy as a click. No, I'm a little biased because that's how it works in our system. But I just mean that as, getting your data shouldn't be difficult, right? It's your data. You shouldn't have to jump through hoops in order to get it. You shouldn't have to call customer service in order to get it. You should be able to just go to somewhere on your site, click a button, and have all your data put in a zip file or something easy for download. So it's definitely something very important to think about when you're looking at a cloud provider, and good questions to ask. Perhaps the most important out of all the ethical considerations is encryption. Everyone, I'm sure, understands what encryption is, the concept behind it. I'm going to give you some technical terms here to think about. You can write them down, but these are the things that you want to look at, that you want to make sure are present when you're talking about encryption with a cloud provider. So here they are. What you want is end-to-end bank-grade encryption. And when I say end-to-end, I mean that's from your computer to the other computer that it gets downloaded on. So what I mean by that, it was a little confusing. What I mean by that is from the second it leaves your computer, it's encrypted. It gets encrypted as it's transmitted to the server. When it gets to the server, it's encrypted on the server. And then whenever it's sent out to be viewed on another computer, another device, it's sent from the server to that device, also encrypted. And it's not decrypted until it is actually on that other computer. And that is end-to-end encryption. And what you are looking for, this is kind of the gold standard in encryption. It's been like this for a good amount of time. And this is still the standard. And there's a typo here, I apologize. You want 128-bit SSL encryption on transfer to and from the server. So that's the transmission piece that we're talking about. 128-bit SSL encryption. Then once it's on the server and stored, you want 256-bit AES encryption. Okay, that's on storage. 256-bit AES encryption on storage. So you've got two different types of encryption. You've got transfer to and from, and you want 128-bit AES encryption there. Or I'm sorry, 128-bit SSL encryption there. And then on storage, you want 256-bit AES encryption. Talk to your cloud provider about that. Make sure that you're comfortable with it. That's what you're going to need. If you have that, you should feel very, very safe with your data going to and from and being stored on the servers. Okay, so those are our 4 questions. If you ask those questions, if you get those answers, you should feel pretty comfortable moving forward with that cloud provider. There are a bunch of other things, though, that I still want to talk about and that I think we should consider. One thing is email. Okay, email is not a secure method of communication. Email should not be used for communication that is confidential in nature. If you don't understand why, just turn on any news channel. You're constantly seeing emails being hacked, emails leaked. Just this type of communication is extraordinarily problematic. I always like to use the analogy. Email are as confidential and secure as a postcard written in pencil. When you send that email, it is passing through God only knows how many different servers, and God only knows how many different countries. And anywhere along that way, someone can intercept that email. Now, the odds are that people aren't actually looking for your email and they're not poaching it and reading it. But the reality of it is that they can. And all it's going to take is one time. There's going to be one major situation where someone is going to have a sensitive email intercepted by someone who shouldn't get it. And they are going to, and everything is going to be changed forever. And email is no longer going to be the standard method of communication. There are plenty of other ways to communicate securely with your client. I encourage you to look at those ways, whether it's client portals through practice management companies. We have a client portal like that does messaging. It's something that you really want to look into. I encourage everybody to investigate that, look at alternatives. So I have just a few more really important things to touch on. Just kind of some other items that are really important to think about when you're looking at moving to the cloud and looking at a company. Check into the business. Okay, does it have long-term viability? You're going to be trusting a lot of your data to them, and you might get answers to all the other questions that are very, very great. But if that company's not going to be around for a while, then you're making an investment in a sinking ship, and you're going to end up having to use that one-click data export much quicker than you anticipated. So one thing that comes with the SaaS, with the cloud, is there are a lot of startups out there, and a lot of small companies that are just trying to get going, trying to get on their feet. And so you just want to look into the business. It's not unreasonable when you're investigating a cloud provider to talk to them about funding. Do they have VC funding? Are they financially secure? Have they been acquired by someone who's much more financially secure and can give them backing? A lot of companies, they're only going to give you so much information, but they're going to give you a good idea on their stability. And with just a little bit of research, you should be able to get a pretty clear picture on your own. The EULA is actually important. Do not just click agree. We're all lawyers, so we probably are inclined to read this anyway. But the small print is important. I mentioned a few reasons why earlier. Items that are contained in those documents that are really important to get answers to some of the questions that I told you to ask. So EULA, and that stands for End User License Agreement. Don't just click agree. It's a really good practice to start looking through those documents and understanding the policies and processes that the company has in place. Another good one is a good one for the lawyers. How would the company handle a subpoena? We get this question a lot, and it's not a bad question to ask, especially nowadays. How would the company handle a subpoena? What if a government entity sends them a subpoena demanding data? How would they respond? What would they do? Would they notify you that they've been asked for data? Our response is always that we will handle each subpoena individually. We will comply with the law as we need to, and that may involve notification requirements or lack thereof. We will comply with the law, but we will handle every subpoena individually, and in every possible way that we can, we will let our customer know what's going on. That's a commitment that we have. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about moving to the cloud, because I think everyone, if you haven't done it already, you're going to do it. It's just a matter of time. And there are a couple of good practices that, we've been in this business for a long time, and I've seen thousands and thousands of law firms move to the cloud. And so I understand some good practices with doing that. One of them is don't jump in head first. Don't just say, I'm going to the cloud and just do it on the whim. That's not the best practice. You don't want to just move everything over right away. You want to keep your old system around. This is important. You're going to have a lot of historical information, a lot of which might, most of which, a lot of which might not come into your new program that you use. You want to keep that system around, at least for reference purposes, for a while. And you don't want to migrate everything, right? You're not going to be able to get over 30 years worth of billing information. And quite frankly, you don't want to. It's better to kind of move forward slowly. Move cases into a system as you work on them. Don't just do it all at once. And you want to utilize trial offers. Try as many different software as you can before making a decision. There are so many different options out there for so many different services. And you can really find something that's going to work for you. Everybody's got a little bit of a different taste, and every software offers a little bit of a different experience. You really want to utilize these free trial offers that most companies give you to really find the software that's going to work best for you. So to sum it up for me, the cloud is everywhere, and you probably use it every day. And even if you don't know it, it's everywhere, and it's the future. Actually, it's not the future. It's now. This is current. This is how it is now. The cloud is now, and it's not going anywhere. In fact, it's only going to get more present. We are going to start to see it more and more. Companies that you never expected would go towards the cloud will go to the cloud. It's not going anywhere. It can significantly change your life and affect your bottom line. I've shown you how it can affect your bottom line, but it can significantly change your life because it can just change the way you practice. You can now practice from wherever you want without any concerns. You can go on vacation and still be connected to your office, which is something that I know I can never completely disconnect from my office. And having the cloud allowed me to do that, to still enjoy my family and enjoy vacations and be able to still stay as connected to my law firm as I want it to be. And it can be used perfectly ethically. There are no issues with the cloud. Doing just a little bit of homework goes a very long way for you and will protect you when it comes to ethics and your responsibility to keep your client's data safe. And I can assure you, if you answer those 4 questions correctly that I gave you to answer and you just do a little bit of homework, the cloud is infinitely more secure, and you're doing a better job for your clients by using the cloud than you could with any local software structure. So it can be used perfectly ethically, and I encourage everybody to actually do that. So I thank you for your time. I hope that you enjoyed this session. Again, my name is Matt Spiegel. I am the founder and VP and General Manager of MyCase. And you can reach me at matt@mycase.com. I'm happy to answer any questions at any time. Don't ever feel like you're bothering me. I'm pretty responsive. I know how it is to be a lawyer as well. And so I can offer some unique insight into some issues that you may be having. So please feel free to give me an email, drop me a line whenever you desire. Thank you, and I hope to speak to everybody again soon. Bye-bye.